let's get this party started. Let's do that. Alright, cool. Entertainment. There we go. Hey, hello. Hey, everybody who's joining today. Good to see you all here. Alright. Did this not update? Hold on. Give me a second. Something messed up on, see. And then we will delete this. Delete. I am having a bit of technical difficulties as always. And I think I renamed it. Perfect. Alright. Oh, phooey. I just did something not good. Okay. Give me a second. Alright, let's see. There we go. Alright. Hopefully this is correct. Oh, looks like it's not updating, so that's unfortunate. Alright. That's okay. Anyways, what I have done is I have created a Twitter link. And I will try to copy this, but unfortunately, this whole thing is just... Oh, it's just a huge pain in the butt. Okay. Embed tweet. Here we go. And then I will put this in the description, the video description. This is a bit awkward. There we go. I think that's it. I'm gonna turn this music down a bit. Go forward. Make this shuffle. We are going to create a new document. New. And we are just going to have a 12 by 12 open so that I can explain things and change the brush size to something that's slightly more suitable for, well, doing anything. Alright, cool. So now that I've gotten everything set up well streamed for about 4 minutes, I'm going to explain what I'm doing. So I wasn't able to find any guests today, which is fine. It means that I can do something that I think a lot of people probably have been wanting for a while, and that is I am going to be answering some of your questions about art in this stream, whether that be about drawing, sketching, anatomy, or finding inspiration. I'm going to try my best to at least give my explanation on how I go about drawing and my processes, depending on what questions you ask, to the Twitter link I provided in the description of this live feed. Now, I am actually going to get started, and we are going to take a look at some questions that have been asked on this. So I am going to drag this screen right here. Going to zoom in, and I believe Nitro Espresso actually was the person to ask the first question. So I am going to take a look. Has there been anything you've struggled with learning when it comes to drawing? Yes. I have struggled with a lot of things when it comes to drawing. One of the things that I struggle the most with when it comes to drawing is actually doing a painterly style. It's something that I've had a very hard time understanding and grasping for over 3 years, and only just recently have I really got a more painterly style down. And I think that it just, yes, no, I struggle with stuff just like anybody else. And I think that's the best explanation to what I've struggled with, because I've struggled with a lot of drawing. Next question, I think, let's update this. What have we got now? Alright, so we got a couple more. I think, let's go with Ed. Or is there any way to view tweets in order? Alright, let's see. So, how can I get better at shading? It's one of those things I'm having the most trouble with. I can't shade anything decently for the life of me. So, I actually made a video about this, and it can be found... Okay, what the heck is going on here? No, that's the wrong thing. Okay, so I actually made a video about that. It is called How to Shade. It's a part 3 in a 3-part series that I made. I still haven't made part 2, but if you want to know how to shade, go check that video out. I did a much better job there explaining how to shade than I can right now. But because you asked on Twitter, I will at least try my best to kind of give a little bit of an example right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a circle. Let's do that. Now we are going to basically shade in the circle. So what we're going to start is we're going to start with, I guess, what was it? So we have the Terminator line, which is the line between light and dark, because we're going to have the light coming in from probably right around here. So, and then we are going to shade behind this area right here, because light isn't hitting it. We're then going to have the occlusion shadow, or the occlusion that happens in this drawing, because the light from the ground, which is going to be right here, is going to not let light into this area right around here. From there, we are going to create a little bit more of the Terminator line, basically right here, because light also isn't going to be really hitting here either. And this is section right here is more pronounced when you have a shinier object, and less pronounced when you have a more matte finish on an object. And then we are going to have the light source, which is going to be right up here, just kind of doing that. That right there, and then we're going to have the highlight offset from that, like so. And that's a pretty decent looking, metallic looking object, I think. That's the best explanation I can have for it. So I'm going to, and we're going to create a new layer and move on to the next question. I'm trying to do these a little bit more lightning fire round, because a lot of these don't really need a particularly long explanation. I just feel like I can move through them pretty quickly. Hopefully I can move through them pretty quickly. Next question is there any way to practice upper body anatomy where you put the fucking arms? This is actually a very good question, Blitz, and there is an answer for that. So when it comes to upper body anatomy, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. So first off, let's actually start with one of my favorite things to do, and that is actually to draw a human's upper body, not a furry's. So we are going to start with the upper torso, like right here. We're going to make this kind of a blocked trapezoidal shape. We have the shoulders right here. It's actually going to be more facing forward, so this is the front. that's the chest area. So that would be the biceps right there. We have, no, that's the pecs right here. Then we have the six-pack right there. Kind of gauge that out a little bit. Now, then we have the shoulder muscles right there. I don't actually know the name of them. We have neck muscles, the neck, which is right there. We are actually going to have the pecs kind of go into the shoulder itself. That's something useful to know about human anatomy. And then we are going to have the bicep and then the tricep, which is slightly lower than the bicep. And then we're going to have like this little muscle right here, kind of sticking out, just right there. And then we kind of, one of the ways that I like to do it is I like to kind of create this wraparound like so with the lower body or lower muscles, kind of like that. I need to draw just little hands like so. And there we have a decent human upper body. Now, to answer your question about how to kind of place arms and hands. So an important thing to actually do, and something important that I've learned, is to actually place the hands before you draw the arms. So say you want to draw a character that is holding their face because there's a sense of surprise. So let's draw a face right there with a sense of surprise, and let's make it a furry because that's why you guys are here. Then we are actually going to draw the hands on the face before we actually draw the arms. From there, we're going to draw the body. So we're going to draw the body like that. And now what we can do is, since we have the body placement and we have the arm placement, we're going to then work on the shoulder placement, which is going to be slightly up, then a lax body position. And then from there, we can actually attach the arms to... We can draw on the arms based off of these parameters that we already have, which will give it a much cleaner and more concise way of doing it than drawing the arm, redrawing it, and then trying again after you figured out that you may have messed up on certain aspects of the drawing. So kind of like that. And though it's a little bit off, you get the idea. And I think that's placing the hands before you place the arm angles is going to be something that's really going to help you make some more dynamic poses, because, and it's just going to give you a bit more of a grounding on where you're going to put the arms in the first place. All right, moving on to the next question. Let's see. Let's update and see how many questions I've got. Or, you know what, I can go to notifications, and this will probably be a better option. All right, so this is not updating. Is that seriously not? Wow, this is okay. Hold on, Twitter's being a bit ornery today, so I kind of have to do. Shoot, I'm gonna have to use my phone because Twitter is not updating. So, to people who are asking questions in chat, I'm not answering questions in chat. I'm answering questions that are based off of the Twitter link that I left in the description of the video, because I really can't spend that much time going through the chat, which is going to move way too fast. I'm just sorry, guys. So, let me see. Can I even open up my phone and get it? Because Twitter is just... I think ever since the web update, it's been a bit finicky. Not to say that it isn't bad, it's just a bit interesting. Alright, let me see if I can find some more of these. Alright, cool. So, how do you shade so well? What the heck, too much, still in the US. How can I get better at shading? So, I have a video called specifically for shading that you guys can check out if you want to learn how to shade. Hey, you finally caught one of these. Hey, Chipflake, how you doing? And then we have, is there any way to practice upper body? Can you explain the color wheel? Just recently heard about it and wonder if how much. Okay, let me reread this. Rigby asks, "Can you explain the color wheel? Just recently heard about it, and I wonder if you know much on colors. I think newer artists have trouble with colors in general." I do not know the color wheel very well, and in fact, I don't really follow it that much. I learned about it in an art class that I took, and frankly, I didn't find it particularly helpful. But what I can do is I can do my best to explain how I do colors. So let's start with a simple drawing with just maybe just a character, maybe on their phone. Let's see. Strut like that. Just kind of see how that. All right, let's zoom out here. We're going to drag this like so that we kind of have more of a composition about it. Let's give this guy a little bit of hair. And now let's go to a layer below, and we are going to kind of shade it. So there's kind of two different ways that I found to be really helpful in terms of coloring your drawings. And one of the ways is it's mostly these two things. One, it's either 2 colors or 3 colors. That's generally what I kind of go for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the color of a cyan blue for the character. I'm going to choose a nice new brush, big size brush, and we're just going to kind of shade this guy in, kind of to just get a general idea of what is going on. So I'm just going to, this is going to take a quick second, and then I will get back to actually being able to explain how to do colors, or at least how I do colors. The music stop? Of course it stopped. Oh, that was just because I stopped it. Oops. There we go. Alright, there we have our character kind of looking at their phone, just minding their own business, being just probably looking at some stank ass memes, and we are going to basically take this and we are going to try to make a composition out of it. Now, one of the ways that we can do that is we can actually do a single kind of more of a monochrome style of drawing, where we take okay, that's the wrong thing. No, stop it. Where we're going to take that same initial color, which is that blue, and we're going to take it down in kind of its value, in its saturation, and a little bit in its lightness. And this is going to create a kind of a single color composition, but it's still pleasant to look at. And this type of composition is generally what I would suggest beginning artists do, because it makes this uniformity to what you're drawing instead of using a bunch of different colors. And that is going to be really useful for people to be able to kind of draw attention to the main composition that you want somebody to look at. Now, the more expert version of this is actually, we're going to take this and we are going to turn it down in saturation. We're going to take it there. And we are going to take this and we are also going to turn it down in saturation, but we are going to actually make it a lighter color and more something like that. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to complement this color with maybe an orange for the eyes. Like that. And we're going to take this. Now, cancel, that doesn't look very good. I'm going to take that, we're going to take a white to the eye. Like so. And now we're going to take that orange and we're going to place it right on the eyes as if it's the iris. Now what we have is we have something slightly different, where we have very much it's focused on not only the character but also specifically the face. So some of the ways that you can draw attention to detail is by adding a lot of color to certain no, that's wrong. I'm hitting the wrong button. Is by adding color to certain aspects of your drawing. So by having maybe the eyes be a very vibrant color, you are drawing attention to the eyes. And this is something that I have done with Zillion, because his body is actually a very a very black and white in a sense. It's gray and white, and you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of the stream, you can see that I have a very black and white palette, except for the eyes, which means that your attention is immediately drawn to the face and immediately drawn to the eyes. And that is very much a purposeful aspect of this, of my design. So being able to, so if I'm going to teach anything from this, it would be use as many colors as you want in, but having one core color is going to be extremely useful, because a lot of the other colors are going to end up being kind of muted. As long as some of the other colors end up being kind of muted, then you have this one color that is going to be more of a focus, and it's really going to make your drawings and your image a lot more solidified. All right, cool. Next question. Are you opening commissions this year? I plan on opening commissions this year, yes. What free digital art program would a paint style work best in? This is Patent at Heart or Toxic Lover. So I personally would recommend Krita. It is a free art program that has a lot of tools that is very similar to Photoshop, and I find it to be extremely useful for just getting into art and stuff. Another step up from that is Paint Tool Sai, which only costs about $40, and once you purchase it, you own it for pretty much ever. It's also extremely powerful, and I know plenty of professional artists who use Paint Tool Sai. Photoshop is kind of like what I learned. It's not necessarily the best, it's not necessarily the worst, it's just one of the programs that you can't use. If you're starting out on digital media, use Krita or Fire Alpaca. Those are the two that I would recommend. Another way to make anatomy look good. That is a very... Fixer the Fox asks, another way to make anatomy look good. That is a very difficult question to kind of answer. One of the ways that I think one of the ways to best explain that is actually to study human anatomy. Now, I'm going to go through and basically go through human anatomy real quick, and I'm then going to translate it into an anthropomorphized animal. Because believe it or not, anthropomorphization doesn't just mean sticking an animal head on a human body. It is more than just that. It is taking human characteristics and anatomy and splicing it with animal anatomy. Because the way that we draw anthropomorphic animals or furries is not indicative to how animals of that same genre or genus their anatomy actually works. And it's very interesting. So we're actually going to start with a human. That is the wrong thing. There we go. So I'm going to start with a human body. So I'm going to draw the torso. I'm going to draw the action line. I'm going to draw the torso, like so. I'm going to draw the hips. I'm going to draw the legs and the feet. Again, I'm using the same mentality that I used for the hands, of being able to place the hands first before the feet, so that I can kind of get hands before the legs, or hands before the arms. I'm doing the same thing with the legs. So I'm doing the same thing here, so I'm gonna... Alright. So one of the important things about human anatomy is that it actually translates very well into... So let me restart. I'm going to start with the human anatomy. So we have the chest muscles right there. We are going to have the arm, bicep, tricep. We are going to have those curves for the arm right there, for the lower part of the arm. And then we're going to kind of do the same thing with the legs. Going to place some of the anatomy there. So, this drawing has a way too large of a torso. I apologize for that. So we're going to kind of take the anatomy of a human right here. So, and now we are going to translate that into that of an anthropomorphic animal. We are going to take that same anatomy and splice it in a slightly different way, which is how most of this stuff generally works. What the heck did I draw all the way over there? Okay. This is probably really boring for you guys, and I apologize for that. But we are going to continue along with it. So let's now take this and translate it into kind of an anthropomorphic design. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to start with the same shape. Generally for a character that's furry, you're going to have a little bit more of a curved action line because you're going to want to account for the tail. It's going to be a bit softer just because that you want that kind of fluffy look. It's going to be a little bit more evenly shaped, a little bit less like an hourglass and a little bit less like a trapezoid, and a little bit more kind of evenly spaced with the hips and the chest. They're going to be a little bit more of an equal size. So we are going to take that. I'm going to place the hands right there. And basically, I'm just going to make a slightly more simplified version of the anatomy of a human, but for an anthropomorphic character, where we're still going to kind of have that chest area, but it's going to be a little bit more elongated to account for maybe the slightly longer torso that we're going to have. And then for the legs, we are actually going to make them digigrade, so we are going to kind of bow them out. Let's place the feet right there. But we're still going to have the kneecap like we would in a regular drawing, and we're still going to have the lower body. This whole section of the foot is translated into this section right here, which means we are still going to have the calf muscle kind of up there, and right there, and right there. We are going to take the neck, we're going to kind of elongate it down because you're going to have a little bit more of a slender neck because it's an animal. Kind of like that. So things just kind of get a little bit elongated into certain areas. Hips are going to be less pronounced because they're kind of sucked up by the hips in most animals. I'm not sure if this is helping anybody, and I feel kind of bad that I really can't explain it. This is why I try to make drawing tutorials, because I'm really terrible at explaining this live. Let's see. And then we have the muscles for the legs, which I do not know the names of. Kind of like right there. I don't know. Basically, what I'm trying, the simplified version of this is look at human anatomy, because everything that we base off of animals is based off of human anatomy. We're just kind of messing with it in a slightly different way. So just study human anatomy, because that'll translate very well to animal anatomy. And also study animal anatomy too. I find that animal anatomy isn't really as important as human anatomy, because, well, I started off drawing humans, so I know it a little bit better. But both are also extremely important. But there are a lot of references for human anatomy, and that is probably the best way you can learn how to draw furries, is by drawing humans occasionally. Alright, next question. That took far too long. I apologize for that. Alright. What are your tips for people who are trying to start drawing? Like, what tablet to start with and the basics of how to draw? Alright, so for the basics of to answer that question for those who are beginning artists is you are going to mess up, you're going to fail, and you're going to not like your art. That is okay, everybody starts like that. If I'm going to say, oh, somebody subscribed. Snow the Hyena just subscribed. Thank you for subscribing, Snow Hyena. 1. Okay, that's not the right key. Alright. 1. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna make mistakes, and it's gonna suck. That's okay, because you're just learning how to draw. Alright, Ari P just subscribed as well. Thank you, Ari P. 2. Start with cheap materials. So to save money, you're going to want to start with extremely cheap materials, whether that's a used tablet or just using a pencil and paper. That's probably the best way that you want to start, because I found that if you just buying an expensive tablet or buying a tablet period is not going to make you want to draw more. It's just going to make you feel guilty for not drawing if you don't like it. Now, not everybody who thinks that they might like art aren't always going to be the people who like art. So it's important to at least try with cheap materials so that you don't spend that much money on things that you might not even like. A cheap Huion is great if you figure out that, okay, I want to take a shot at digital art. I like traditional. I want to take a look at some digital. That's another thing. 3, start traditional. Start traditional. You can start with a pencil and a piece of paper, and that is it. It is basically like a really cheap version of drawing on a PC tablet, and it's going to really determine whether you want to do it or not. And believe it or not, sketches on paper look really good. I just find that you tend to get a really good result when you're sketching on paper. When you start digital, one thing that I really noticed is that all of my drawings look like crap, and something that has to do something with the digital medium, and sometimes it kind of sucks. So start traditional. So you're gonna mess up. Start cheap. Start traditional. That would be my best advice. And then 4, tutorials. I cannot stress this enough. I learned everything I know from art tutorials. So being able to look something up on YouTube, like how to draw trees, how to draw furries, or how to draw humans, is going to be extremely useful for you to get that running start, because no one is going to be very good at just drawing from their head if they're just starting. You're going to want to have people who know what they're doing teach you, even if that's through a computer screen. If you follow these steps, you will be in the right direction. Now, granted, this isn't the only way that you can do it, and I'm sure there are plenty of other ways that other people have started drawing. This is just one of the ways that I know worked for me. Anywho, next question. Let's see. I'm thinking about getting a drawing tablet. Do you have any suggestions for which one I should get? Either a Huion, a cheap Huion, or an Intuos, a Wacom Intuos tablet. Those are the 2 best options that I can think of. So I personally have a Wacom tablet, and I really like it. I've used this Wacom Cintiq Companion 2 for forever, but I actually started on a Oh, Kylo
Thank you for teaching us your ways.
Thank you, Kylo, for the $30 donation. It is much appreciated, and I am very happy and very glad that I can teach you guys what I know, because I enjoy doing it. I'm deleting this channel as just subscribed, so it doesn't sound like they're gonna be subscribed for very long. Outlier, could you please stop typing D in chat? Thank you. So let me try to find. Oh booey! I just clicked out of that. I have very little hand-eye coordination with my mouse, so I'm constantly just accidentally closing windows and opening windows when I don't want to. I've had times where I've tried to sign out and I accidentally shut off my computer. I'm just a marvelous piece of just... Oh, come on. Move to YouTube Studio Classic. Come on! Oh, this is so annoying. Okay, there we go. Alright, we're back, I think. Alright, am I back? Oh, let me just get back to this. Alright. So... Oh, come on, and move to the wrong screen. So... Ooh, let's not do that. Alright, let's see. Wacom Intuos is how I spelled it. But this would be one of the ones that I'd suggest at Wacom Intuos. They go for $59 to $69. I find them to be very good for a very reasonable price. If you can find a used one on eBay. So I'm actually going to look up Wacom Intuos right now. And you can find some that are as cheap as $30 on there, because there are a lot of people who think that they want to do art, figure out that, you know, maybe it's not my thing, and sell their tablets. And that is a great place to figure out if you want to do it, because you can just get it from one of them. Yeah, so eBay, cheap tablets. Probably your best option. Anyways, next question. How do you draw hands? I draw hands... let me explain. So, do we have... Yeah, okay. So, I draw hands based off of the best reference that I have, which is my hand in front of me. But I'll just kind of break it down how I generally do them. So, I generally start with kind of a trapezoid that kind of goes down in that direction. Then kind of one of the ways that you can do it is you can split it off there. I just don't because I'm lazy. So I'm going to do that. The thumb is kind of a triangle out to the side, and then you kind of draw it out like that. Wrap it around like so. And then you have this fan that is the rest of the hand, like that. And then you have the fingers, kind of like so. The index and the ring finger are going to be around the same size. They are actually going to be the exact equilateral distance on a female, and the ring finger is going to be slightly larger on a male than the ring finger. That's just actually what happens genetically, which is kind of cool to think about. And then that's kind of how I draw a hand. There are other ways that you can do it. So say that we're going to kind of draw it from the side. There are a couple of default positions that are really useful. For one, a relaxed hand position is going to have kind of the thumb curling in a little bit like that, but just very loosely. And then we are going to actually have it curve a little bit more in, like so. And then we're going to have the fingers curve in the farther you go back. So the pinky is going to be completely obscured, and then kind of like so. And that's generally how you want to draw a more relaxed hand. And then a fist is going to have kind of a shape like this, where the thumb is going to be clenched around, and then you kind of have another circle for your palm and such, like so. And then generally your index finger is actually going to be sticking up a little bit in most fists, and then the other three are generally going to be equidistant from each other. And we kind of do a little bit more, get the crinkles, the wrinkles that you get from your hand and your thumb, and then we just kind of like label them out like fleshy little blocks, like so. And then Alright. But using that solid base is going to be really useful. How do you draw hands? How long do you take as good as you are? I started drawing in high school. I am now in college. It took me a while to get where I am, but the important thing is I enjoyed every step of the way. Well, not every step. There are a couple of hiccups here and there. It's hard, but I do have a passion for it. And I think people who really do have a passion for drawing will generally stick with it. All right. Let's see. Dante Fiora says, "You no, furries are gross." All right. Okay, let's see. Next question. You should draw a wolf. That is all right. It's pretty easy. Let's see. Start with a circle. Start with a circle. Let's draw the crosshairs for the face. Let's draw the nose right there. Let's kind of shape out the face in a little bit of more of a hexagonal pattern. Wolf's ears are kind of more at the top right there, kind of like so. Maybe a little bit smaller just because the ears are less pronounced. Luke donated $5.
Since I'm late, Zillion fursuit. Yes.
Alright, thank you, Luke, for the $5 donation, and suit, yeah. I have the sense of humor of a 40-year-old dad. Wow. So, let's draw. Those eyes do not look right. Oh well. Alright, let's kind of do the eyebrows a little bit. And then we have the nose, which is actually kind of rounded in comparison to most animals. Gonna have kind of come down like that, and then we got a little bit more of a pelt, like so. And then we have a very low jowl, very rounded nose, like so. There we go, you have a wolf. Alright, next question. Let's see. Alright. Any tips you can give when it comes to coloring artwork? I think I answered that one earlier. When you first start drawing, what helped motivate you to keep drawing? I work a lot and I want to start grinding out art, but I find it exhausting to do anything after or before work. So, a simple answer is to just kind of
I wanted to see this suit. Thank you for teaching us your ways, Senpai.
Alright, Prom Eternal, thank you for the $10 donation. It is much appreciated, and don't call me senpai. Call me sensei. That sounded terrible. Oh man, I need to have like checks and balances with just what I say. I am... Anywho, let me answer. What was the question again? How do you stay motivated? So, how do you stay motivated when you start drawing and after work? So, when I did a summer job last year, it was very hard for me to kind of get into a habit of drawing after work and stuff, and to the point where I didn't do it. I think probably one of the best ways to do it, and this is coming from personal experience, is to do it often so that it becomes a habit. Because if you do it enough, it'll become a habit, and then habit becomes your life. And if you decide to like draw after work every day, or try to do something after work every day, you're gonna see that repetition, and you're gonna start doing it more and more often, and it's gonna become easier, and you're gonna be able to find motivation a little bit more easier. I think one of the easiest ways for beginning artists to do that is to figure out something that they want to draw, look up tutorials for it, and just kind of go exploring. It seems a bit weird, but being able to just learn a bunch of different techniques and just things that you can draw. And then one of those days it's going to click, and you're going to be like, oh wait, I can use all of these tools that I just learned to draw some whole thing. At least that was it for me when I learned how to draw humans. It was basically, all right, I know how to draw human anatomy. I know how to draw the facial structure. Oh wait, now I can draw a whole human after I've watched enough tutorials.
Hi Zillion, thank you so much for the $200 donation. It will help out our team.
Oh, no problem. Bobcat Motorsports donated $1, and thank you very much, and I'm glad you took the $200. Any anatomy tips? Study human anatomy. I answered that question. When you use it, so Kido asks, when you use a digital paint release style, how do you manage to create a fine detail without strokes and colors and muddying it all together? That I am glad you answered that question, because it is not easy to do, at least for me, because it is a very new technique that I very much learned maybe in the last week or so. So I think the main thing is you got to work at steps, and it's very hard to kind of figure out those steps. So I'm going to work through them a little bit right now. I'm going to draw. Let's do. Shoot, what should I draw? Let's just draw a sphere, and let's go from there. So I'm just going to draw a fluffy sphere. So what I do start out with is I do start out with a sketch very similar to this. So I'm just going to put crosshairs in here to kind of represent the construction lines that I use. And then we are going to use maybe a brown color. We are going to make a new layer. We are going to kind of just fill it in like that. I'm going to drag it below. Now the next thing that I do is I actually draw a very simple cell shading for this, actually. I take a sketch brush that I have, which is the one that I have right now. I'm going to increase it in size a little bit. I am going to control and press that. Oh.
I just stayed up to see the stream. Hope I get my motivation to draw back.
Orasim donated $10. I just stayed up to see this stream. I hope I get my motivation to draw back. I hope you do too. But if you don't, sometimes just practicing anyways is also good. So we're going to take Shift and we are going to click on the... we're going to Control and we're going to click on layer 11, which is going to highlight that whole layer so I can no longer draw outside that layer. I'm going to take a slightly darker brush, so kind of like that. I am now going to do the just the cast shot. Oh.
Hey everyone, let's get that free follower count up at Bobcat Motorsports on Insta.
Bobcat Motorsports donated $1 and I guess plug themselves. Thanks. I guess go check them out. All right. So we are going to start with the cast shadow, which is going to be this one right here. And I think that's good enough. We are going to make the occlusion shadow a little bit more down here. So I'm just going to shade that a little bit more. I'm actually going to bring the shading down a little bit more, kind of like that. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit more to the top there, kind of get that Terminator line a little bit more pronouncement. And then I am going to take so we're going to set this to multiply. I am going to get a new brush and I am going to choose a very light color. I am now going to kind of do that at the top, kind of make it go a little bit lighter, look a little bit more to the sides. Now, this is all very nice and good for now, but what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go to a new layer at the very, very top, and I'm going to take a brush set from Lukiri's basic brush set, and this is a very nice brush set that I very much enjoy. I'm going to now take colors and I'm going to blend them together. So I'm basically going to take this one, I'm going to kind of blend it out, kind of get more of that range in there. And this is just to kind of get those colors down, like that. Just take away those construction lines and just very simply do that, like so. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this brush, I'm going to increase it a little bit there, that. I'm going to take this and I'm going to start taking the lines out, like so. I'm going to make the fur kind of go that way. And I'm going to curve the brush a little bit more like that, and I'm going to kind of make this little bit of a fur pattern right there. I'm going to take the colors from there, and I'm going to kind of make a little bit more of a, kind of make it appear as if, give the illusion that there is fur there. I am going to do the same thing here, and kind of just give it a little bit more character in the shading, like so. Take the occlusion shadow, kind of bring it up. Like so. I'm going to continue this pattern. This is just kind of a very therapeutic process for me. It's not particularly refined. It's just kind of comfortable for me to do. I don't know. Drag the brush a little bit more like that. And that looks...
Thanks
hey.
again, Zillion. Remember to Baja Blast off to the moon.
Thank you, Bobcat Motorsports, for the $1 donation, and I will remember to blast to the moon. Oh my god, why do I... One of my friends is on that team, so it's like, oh boy. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this light color and I am going to create a highlight. Just kind of a little bit right there to kind of where the color would be. Yeah, it's not quite great. Just going to do it right there. Kind of like so? I don't know. This looks a bit high. Oh hey, people subscribed. A name that's way too long to pronounce, and King B13. Kind of like that. We're gonna add a little bit more fur to the back. Like so. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create a smaller size brush, make it that way. I'm going to take some of that color and we're going to kind of create a little bit of a backlighting right here. Like so. And then that's basically kind of how I shade some of my newer work. I hope that it's not, I don't really find it to be kind of my style yet. I still need to do quite a bit of refinement. And I'm not quite happy with how it all turns out looking. So it's probably going to take a little bit more work. Oh, Rigby donated. Whoa.
Thanks for the helpful tips and helping us become better artists. Here's an art joke for ya. What do you call someone hanging on a wall? Art.
Rick Animations just subscribed. What do you call someone hanging on a wall? Art? I mean, kind of. Contemporary art does get kind of crazy nowadays. Alright, so this is kind of how I shade some of my new work. I think that's the best explanation I can do in the short time frame that I have. Most of the time, I would at least try to find a better way to explain it. But, it's not something I can really improvise at the time. It's very hard. And I feel like I'm very scatterbrained when I do it. Alright, next question. How do you do basic coloring? Somehow, it always looks funny to me. I think it goes back to, again, use muted colors and kind of use one color that is generally kind of, here, let me do a little bit better job of explaining it. Let's go snip. let me take just a screenshot of what we have here. I'm just going to take that. We're going to copy it.
I needed to fix that number. It hurt to look it.
Cole donated $22.95 to get us up to $300.50. Thank you, Cole, for the $22.95 in the donation. It is very much appreciated. I'm just basically going to put all of these into just a bunch of groups because I guess okay. I am going to do a little bit of a better explanation on how to do colors. So the very first thing that you kind of need to know is that there are a bunch of different areas that you can kind of pick colors from. So this area kind of right here that we're going to take a look at is more of like your pastel range. If we take a look at the colors in here, they're very much not very vibrant, but they still have enough to kind of get the job done. And these are colors that I kind of use as secondary color, something that isn't really going to draw your attention. It's just a nice color palette that will be pretty useful. I'm actually going to take that, and it's more like this range right here. So that's your pastel range. And then you have the range that you never want to use, which is this area right up here. This is the danger zone. This is generally an area.
Nice.
Says nice. This is Chris, and then Prom Elemental donated $1.25 with.
Well, if it hurts to look, maybe it'll make people donate more. Lol.
If it hurts to look, maybe it'll make people donate more. I don't know what that means. Oh no. Alright, so this is the area that you just don't want to use. That's kind of, if you're going to be using something that drastic, you're really going to want to know how to use colors a little bit more. Staying outside of that range is probably going to be the smartest. Kind of a similar thing can be said about this just area right along, kind of going from there to there. You just kind of don't want to use it because it's going to hurt somebody's eyes. Now, this area right down here is kind of your black range. There isn't much variation down here, and on certain computer screens, you're not going to see that much variation. Pretty much this area is what you're going to want to work with. These are going to be your shading colors right down here. They're going to be pretty useful. Your whites, this color right here is generally pretty good for eyes and highlights. Pastels, pretty much a mid-tone, and then right here is going to be your vibrant colors.
Works for me.
Alright, hopefully that is a decent enough explanation. If that was kind of confusing, I apologize. I will try to better explain it when I make a video about it, which will be probably in the next 2 years, knowing my upload time frame. Alright. Alright, thank you. Keep in mind when you draw. Alright, Nitro Espresso asks, how do you go about character design, laying out colors for patterns? Now, this is a very interesting question because character design is a very, very in-depth subject. And it's something that I personally really love, especially when I'm looking at... Oh, Chris got donated
very nice.
69 cents. Oh, we're doing this again. Cool. Alright. Character design is not that simple, but he's asking specifically about animal patterns. And the best way to explain...
Why you do this?
Prom Eternal donated $1.25. Why you do this? Prom Eternal, why are you doing this? I'm trying to explain. You guys are donating in $1 increments. Okay. No, but it's all appreciated. Thank you very much. Character design for animals is a little bit of a subset of the whole character design genre. And the main thing is that you don't just want to start from scratch. There are a couple of very generalized designs that work both very well in terms of viewing and very good in terms of fursuit making. And this is something I learned from Don't Hug Cacti. Scuff Coyote actually told me a little bit about this. So I'm going to make a just very simple looking character. we're going to do this, and then I'm just gonna kind of just bear with me.
Um.
Chris donated $1.06 with I'm sorry. Alright, so we're just gonna kind of draw this little guy right here.
No you hashtag let's start donating in $1 increments, just saying no UXD.
This is not the best, but it'll get the job done. So I am going to kind of, there we go. I apologize for the terrible character design. It's interesting to say the least. I swear I'm better than this. Okay. Anyways, there are a couple of key design features that I know that works really well for fursuits. And the first one is, so we're going to kind of focus on, all right, what patterns work for animals and what patterns don't. So generally what works really well is patterns that go right here, on the shoulders, and on the lower legs and lower arms. Face is a bit of an anomaly. You can pretty much do whatever with a face, as long as it doesn't really... Yeah, people just do anything with the face. Generally, one of the things for the faces kind of want to be symmetric, but that's about it. But that's with most of these characters. So one of the really common ones is called the husky swoops. Now, husky swoops are basically where you take...
No you.
Oh boy. So the husky swoops is basically where you take this kind of area right in here and kind of create that. And then I believe for the arms, it's basically the same thing, where you kind of do that, where it swoops up and you have this area right here that just isn't really colored. Normally it's a lighter color. It can sometimes be a darker color, and the lighter color can be this reddish, rusty color that I have right here. And then let's just finish it off by creating a husky face. Like so. Next one that we have is called foxgloves. So
You got any tips on drawing succulents? Asking for a friend.
Sledge, I swear to Christ. I don't know how to draw succulents. I assume just looking at them. They're all a bunch of, like, cacti balls. It should be pretty simple.
New you.
New IU. Thank you, Prom Eternal, for the $1 donation. Right. The next one that I'm going to go over is... it's a fox pattern. It's called the foxgloves. And basically, it's where you put a mark there and kind of a mark there, and then this is the area that you have to kind of deal with. And these two types of patterns are going to be very useful because you can make variations of them. That's going to be a very good starting point or grounding point to being able to draw a little more. And then we're going to kind of do that. Because you can make variations of even this. So basically, by having this kind of starting ground of either having the fox pattern or the husky pattern to kind of start with, you can generally make variations of that. You can mix and match. You can create highlights around the edges right here. So like highlight them in a different color. I don't know. Like let's use a yellow. That's ugly as crap. Anyways, but you get the idea. Basically, taking those two very basic concepts and making something a little bit different out of them. Now let's take Zillion, for example, and let's kind of use him as a way to... So I'll explain why I did Zillion in the way he's done. Basically, what I did is I took kind of the...
Zillion smells like burnt chicken nugget.
God, I haven't had a chicken nugget in so long. It's kind of sad, but also not really. Anyways, I designed Zillion based off of the patterns of a western spotted skunk. Now, that is generally known by kind of very interestingly shaped lines, and I kind of simplified it into something that is a little bit more drawable, because I need to draw them over and over again. And Zapheath donated $5. Thank you, Zapheath, for the $5 donation and breaking the cycle. I very much appreciate that. So being able to have kind of the curve over the shoulders and have the little bits on the legs is enough to allude to that skunk design without making it too obnoxious. And then having the little bits on the arms, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain.
Any tips on drawing succulents?
Furry fucks it. Or fox. Shoot. Donated $1 saying, any tips on drawing succulents? No, not currently. Oh no. Oh, it was 369.69. Now we just gotta get it to... Oh no.
Hi Zillion, how was your day? Also, I really want to see that fursuit.
Scribble Food donated $5 with a clip.
No! 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 Oh, shit!
Oh my god. That's beautiful.
Why you got antlers, and where does the word Zillion originated Oreo butt, sensei?
Oh, alright. So, Prime Eternal donated $1 and asked the question, why do you have antlers, and where does the Zillion name get the words? I am an engineering student in college. This is very clear I'm an engineering student because I would definitely fail out of being an English major. Alright, so... why do you have antlers? Because I like antlers. Bite me. And the word Zillion comes from my gamer tag on Xbox. That is the simplest explanation, and that is literally the only explanation. I think antlers are cool looking, and the name Zillion came from my gamer tag on Xbox Live. Okay, let's do next question. Let's see. Next question. How do you make a reference sheet, please?
Good job, me.
Good job, me. Zillion donated $1. Good job, me. I didn't donate $1 to myself. Somebody's being an imposter. Who are you and what have you done with the real Zillion? Wait. Okay. How do you make a reference sheet? Okay, so I used to do reference sheets with... I will tell you. I used to make reference sheets... let's see. I actually have files that I can open for this. Let me go back to dumb stuff. It should be under commissions. And I think I did commissions for somebody. So I used to do commissions like this, where it's very much a design where you get the front and you get the back, and you kind of get this half back, half front. And this is this is actually a really good drawing. I really like this one.
Lit. Now, let's start it again. No you.
No you. Where I used to do drawings kind of like this, where it's very much the design, it's front, back, kind of get the whole explanation. But when I started kind of looking at this more, I realized that I was putting maybe a little bit too much effort into this, because something like this might actually be confusing for either a suit maker or another artist to reference. There's just a little bit too much detail, and even this is simplified to what it originally was. If I'm going to go back to some of my very early... Oh boy.
Enjoy.
I don't know if I will... Chris donated $5 saying enjoy, which means that...
Just had my computer at full blast with my mic right next to it talking with friends when You started talking about drawing furries and they started questioning me.
I'm sorry. I'm also not sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm really not sorry. That's hilarious, though. Thank you for telling me that story. Anyways, back to this reference sheet thing. I think I did one for this guy. No, yes, I did. Okay, that's a bad example, though. I think Dave Dugan. Yeah. I used to do reference sheets that looked something like this. And this is just way too cluttered, where there is shading on the character, which might make the markings a little bit difficult to understand. You have just... it's too stylized, there's too much clutter. This is not what I would consider a good way to make a reference sheet. It's just a little bit too much. Now, the way that I would create a reference sheet is by...
We're done probably.
Sledge the Short donated $1. You're not done. You're really not done. I know you're not done. I know you. This is what you live for. Just making my life miserable. Oh boy. Anyways, I am going to click on what I would consider to probably be a really good way to do a reference image. And this is one that I've done for a couple of people. So let's take a look at this one. So this would be what I would say is probably a best case scenario for kind of how you want to do a ref sheet, because it's very simple. It's not really particularly stylized. It's just very much, that is the character. This is how they are supposed to be drawn. You can see all the markings, and it's not hard to understand. With this character, you have something on the eye. It's very clear from both angles what that is. You have a mark there. It's very easy to reference. And Chris donated $1.
I seriously do mean that one day if I ever meet you, I will have $1,000 in pennies and give them to you and run away.
Well, hopefully I can squat $1,000 worth of pennies, which I know I won't be able to, because with inflation rates right now, it's like... I know you'd give it to me in pesos, like you wouldn't give it to me in American pennies, God forbid. I hope I have the strength to carry that. Okay. Where you kind of have a very simple design. Stop it. Oh my god. We have a very simple design. You're able to understand it, and this is a relatively simple design, but some of the markings would be kind of hard to understand. And this can't be... this is extremely important, especially in... like, in some drawings, it's not that important. With something like this, yeah, you can understand this guy's character design very easily, and it's not hard to understand. But when you get to more complicated designs, such as this one right here, it is actually very important to kind of have this style of ref sheet, because you sometimes have markings that are very difficult to do, and you need a really good reference to be able to do those, especially with this character. This was actually a really fun one I did. I was doing concept art commissions for people who were looking into getting a fursuit, and I don't think any of them ever got made, but it was definitely enlightening to kind of figure out what really makes designs like this tick. And being able to have it very easily communicated is extremely important. And for that example, here I have a new one of mine and an old one of mine. So I'm actually going to pull that one out.
No, you. I smell pennies.
Oh, thank you, Prom Eternal. I really need that money. Okay. Let me find an old commission. Not a commission, but an old drawing. Here we go. Here we have an old ref that I have of Zillion. 1.5. This is extremely difficult to understand, and you cannot do it. Granted, this is a very difficult design, and I would not want anybody to ever have to draw this. I don't think I've ever had anybody draw Zillion, or this version of Zillion, correctly. And that's even looking at reference images. I don't think I've ever drawn them correctly. Now we go to the new design and the new ref sheet, because a part of it is the ref sheet. And I'm really just talking out of my ass right now. Anywho, let me take a look at that. And now we have this new design. This is very easy to understand. You can see the back, you can see the front, you can see the antlers, I would probably redo this one personally, just because I don't like it. It could probably use a side view. Me personally, that's what I think. And I will probably need to redo one based off of me getting a fursuit. So
No, you smelly ass.
Chris, who hurt you? Did I hurt you? Is this why you're doing? Is that why you're doing this to me? I'm sorry if I did something. Thank you for the $1 donation, Chris. Anywho, this is probably the best way to do this kind of...
Please tell me you've seen the odd one. Sout Furry IRL. Love you, Dad. Learn to draw from you.
Oh, Hunter donated $1 and said, please tell me you've seen the odd ones out Furry IRL. Love you, Dad. I learned to draw from you. I am not your dad. I am your mentor, I guess. That's kind of how I stated. But also, I am glad that you learned to draw from me. Anywho, this is how you do prep. This is how you do rep sheet. Not like that. Not like that. Because the easiest to understand is going to make the best ref sheet, and it's going to be the best for commissions.
Chris, it's Oreo butt. Jeez, lol.
Oreo butt. Hold on. That's a great one. God, that needs to be my new Twitter handle. That's a great one. I'm gonna have to save that one for later. I like that one. I unapologetically like that nickname. Anyways. Next question. Chris donated $1.
Pathetic.
Saying pathetic. Says the person donating $1 at a time. Really, you got nothing better to do? Okay. Marsh Supword says, whoa, notice me, Zill. You have been acknowledged. And Hayu asks, what is your advice on how to hold a pen? How do you use your arm?
How do you use multiple references to create a new image? And how do you create an image from imagination with minimal reference? Drawing from a single reference is simple, but creating something new that looks good seems impossible to me.
Alright, I'm actually going to answer this one that was done in donation, which is Sparky Wolf Thing donated $5. Thank you for the $5 donation. And how do you use multiple references to create an image? How do you create an image from imagination with multiple references? Drawing from a single reference is simple, but creating something new that looks good seems impossible to me. And that is a very... it's not an easy question to answer, but I will do my
No,
best.
I got nothing to do, boodaroo.
Alright, Prom Eternal donated $1 more. I'm going to answer Sparking Wolf Thing's question. It comes with time. Basically, you're going to learn how to draw a lot of things. So, say I take a reference of a forest, and I'm going to take a reference of a house. So, if I have both of those, I can think, okay, how do I draw a house in a forest? I have both of them here. I can see how light kind of falls. And I'm going to do that, actually. So I'm going to look up forest. I'm going to take some images. I'm going to kind of see the one that I want. So I am going to take... Sophisticated just subscribed. Thank you. So I'm going to take this one right here, and I'm going to place it on a new layer once I get it. That didn't click correctly. There we go. So I'm going to take this. I'm actually going to take this one. I'm going to drag this onto this screen right here, and we're going to take I apologize for my disgusting habits, I guess. And I'm going to take a picture of a cottage off the internet, and I am going to try to reference both of them to kind of create this, to create an image. So I'm going to take both of these. I am going to create my kind of image on the ground. So I'm going to start with a kind of field. I'm going to create a focal point, and I'm going to kind of just create the house kind of based off of that focal point. So I'm just going to kind of draw like so, kind of like that. And now that we have, so that's going to be our cottage. So we notice that it's a bit of a curved roof, kind of like that. And we're just kind of drag it like that. And we're going to put some smokes stacks right there. We're going to make it curve up a little bit, maybe right there, and then we're not going to have a window on that side because this person was building their house on a budget and they can't afford that. Because we're going to assume it's in Britain.
I'm going. You and your Oreo ass smells too much.
Chris donated $1. Alright, I'm going. You and your Oreo arse smells too much. Thank you, Chris. You are always a pleasure to have on stream. Okay. So we're going to take this. We are going to kind of maybe reference this, not entirely. So we're going to have like a little bit of a thatched roof, kind of like that. We're going to have one window there, and maybe we're going to have like a window right here. Maybe just the same level, maybe a little bit higher, kind of like so. We're going to have a door right here, maybe some steps. And now we're kind of reference this woods area, and we are going to start with a background. So I'm going to reference, kind of look at this and kind of think, how do I draw this so that it looks like it's in this right here is in this. And I think the easiest way to do that is to actually start with a layer behind, and we are going to kind of imitate this kind of foliage back here. So I'm actually gonna take a parallel brush. So I'm going to find parallel lines. There we go.
Dang, Chris, so harsh on Oreo bot sensei.
I'm going to go here. You're going to press shift. You're going to do that, and then I'm just going to create a bunch of like little tree lines in the background, kind of like that. It's just kind of representing that there's trees there. Kind of see what I'm getting at in this bit. We go like that. And now I'm going to take a bigger brush. I'm going to go back to this, and we're going to kind of looking at how the background kind of meshes together. We're going to do that. Like so. We're going to, like so. Now we are going to start moving a little bit more into the foreground because we have kind of these trees popping up everywhere. So that's very much a background, and we are going to maybe turn the opacity down that a little bit. We're going to go up to behind the house still, and we're going to start drawing a little bit more in the foreground. Like so. This kind of gives the illusion that there is in fact a forest here. I'm gonna have maybe a couple, like maybe just right outside the house, kind of like so. And now we are going to take a much larger brush, and we are going to kind of fill in foreground, just kind of like where the trees are, kind of like so. Maybe kind of reference. Now, another important thing is that coming from the back to the front, the colors are going to be more vibrant and a little bit more darker in the front of the drawing than in the back of the drawing. Midground is generally going to be the most vibrant, front is going to be the most dark, and the back is going to be more of a pastel-ish, kind of less intense hue. Going to shade the ground a little bit right around there, and now we have, we're going to shade the house a little bit on this side because we're going to assume the light isn't touching this side because, I don't know, kind of feel like it. There we go. We used both of these images to kind of reference how we want a cottage to look, and then we zoom in like so. I'm going to turn that layer back on, and we have very much something that looks like a house in the woods.
Let's get to 420 peeps. I am done for NTHE night lol. Thanks Zill for streaming. Hope you do flash commission soonish again.
Thank you, Prom Eternal, for the $1.69 donations. Let's get to 420. Oh boy. That would be... Yeah. Just how when we reach 666 or 6969 or something along those lines. Anyways. It's about combining references in ways that you can understand. And I think... hopefully that was at least a half-decent explanation. I don't really know the best way I can explain it more from there. Alright, Hayu asks, what is your advice on how to hold a pen, or how to use your arm to move it? There's probably no correct way, but surely there are easier ones. I do not know. I really don't know, but I can speak to how I draw. The way I hold my pen is I hold it... let me look up the correct way to hold pen. And I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of videos that are like, you've been holding a pen the wrong way the whole time, because... let's see. So this is the best way to explain it, because I hold my pen this way. Like that. Right, I need to delete all these. So I hold my pen like that. Now I use my arm when I'm drawing. Like, let me see. When I'm drawing, Shades donated $10.
If I become a furry, I'm blaming you.
Shades donated $10, says, if I become a furry, I'm blaming you. You're watching this stream, you're already halfway there. Get out now while you still can. There's still time to save yourself. Actually, I'm not sure about that. But, enjoy the ride? Okay. I generally don't use tight finger movement when drawing on a tablet screen. I will do it for when I'm writing and when I'm drawing traditionally. But on a computer screen, just drawing with your fingers kind of looks like this. Very kind of tight. Doesn't really normally lead to much movement, and it can be kind of difficult to do. Sometimes it looks good, sometimes it doesn't. So this is very much just using not even wrist movement, just finger movement right here. Now that versus me using my whole arm, which is going to look a little bit more like this. That looks terrible too. Okay, let me restart that. I find it to be more flowing, and it will generally come up with more dynamic poses. At least for me. So I generally use my whole arm, sometimes my wrist. But that's how I normally draw digitally. Let's see. How do you do inner ears? I can't do it. That is a good question. I don't necessarily know if I do inner ears correctly, but I will show you how I do them. So first we start with a triangle. So kind of, let's just draw the face like this, and we will just kind of start with eyes because I'll move on to ears once I get to it. Let's do that. All right, now for ears, I'm going to zoom in on that section. I generally start with a triangle that kind of goes a little bit right, kind of curves in towards the eyes like that. Kind of matches in that same kind of area. I don't know. I very much wing it on ears. I apologize for that. But here we go anyways. I then kind of think about, all right, so I have the inner ear is very much going to be kind of this intersection right here, but it's also going to curve over right around here. So it's going to kind of look like that. Now, the way I represent this is I kind of draw a line from here to here, kind of over, and that kind of references that this area right in here is shaded. Now, I generally represent this with a little bit of fluff right here, kind of like so, and then kind of just drag it out like that. Now, there are two ways that I generally draw the inner ear. Either there's a large tuft, kind of like this, kind of coming out from the inner ear that way, or I will start with a little bit of fluff right here, and then it'll kind of do a wraparound ring like so, and then a little bit more fluff out there, and then a final row of fluff around the outside. But it's very much kind of taking this shape of a kind of like so. This is where it attaches to the head. We kind of take the inside of that, like so. It's very much a hollow shape. It really isn't going to carry that much volume. The fluff is, but the ear itself really isn't. If we want to elaborate on this a little bit more, you can actually have an ear that is a little bit more shaped like this, where you kind of have an outer ear and an inner ear kind of like so, where the inner ear has much more shape to it, and the outer ear is kind of a little bit more of a flat. This can be represented very much like something like this, where it kind of curves in, and then you kind of get a bit of a shape out there, kind of representing where the lobe, where the inner lobe is. Maybe have some stuff coming out there, and then having it curve down like so. And then having some shading in here, like that. I don't know. There's a bunch of different ways to draw them, and it's mostly about what type of style you like. Also, looking at references of actual ears of animals, and even at your own, might be helpful for how to kind of draw them. Anyways, next question. Let's see. Next question is, let's see. Can you show me some easy ways on drawing furry expressions? Because sometimes my faces look weird. There is a really in-depth explanation that I give people about drawing expressions, but here I will give a simplified version. So most of the time when people are drawing furries, it is very much a very simple expression, and I will show you what that expression is right here. It's a circle, it is the eyes right there, very much kind of not necessarily cross-eyed but looking forward, brows raised, some tufts of hair up there, maybe some ears like so, like that, and we have the mouth kind of curving up. It's very much always a pleasant smile. Now, this isn't the only thing you can do. And one of the ways that to do that is to recognize some of the muscle structures that we have in anthropomorphic animals. For example, we have the eyelids right here, which can go up and down. We have the eyebrow that can go up and down. We have the eyelids that do things as well. We also have the bridge of the nose that can crease at areas right around here, like so. We also have kind of this ring right over this kind of area right around here, which can curl up into like an angry face. And then we have the mouth, which kind of curves down in this kind of shape. And this is kind of normally where the crease will be. You have the backs of the eyes right here. And then kind of curves a little bit like that. And that's kind of where we have a lot of our structure. Let me think a little bit more. Yeah, and then it's kind of like that. So this is kind of the area that we have to work with. And because of that, we can actually modify it in some very interesting ways. So say we want to do a snarl. Let's go here. We want to do a snarl, so let's draw the same face. We are going to make the eyebrows a little bit lower. We are going to bring the eyelids down as well, bring the eyelids down as well. We are going to crease that area right here, make it a little bit smaller. And it's a very much a more scrunchy face. We're going to take this area right here, and we're going to bare the teeth. We're going to make it start up, but then we're going to bring it down, kind of in a snarl, like so. So it goes up like that, down like that. And we're going to, because of this area right here, is going to kind of go up like that because it's bearing the teeth. So we're going to have a bit of wrinkling right there. And because of that as well, we are also going to have the eyelids kind of come up from the bottom as well. Maybe some teeth. And then we can also have reference in the ears to kind of expression as well, and that's something that's very unique about furries, is that you can actually use other body parts and body language to kind of express emotions in the face. Now, humans also have a massive array of body emotion than just the face, but with anthropomorphic characters, it tends to be a little bit easier. In any case, this is an angry face. Let's make a very happy face next. So we're going to have it wide eyes, like so. Very raised eyebrows, like that. We're going to have the mouth very much in a smile, like so. We're going to have the eyelids raised because the brow of the mouth is coming up. And then we're going to add very much an open mouth, like so. We are also going to have reference from the other side that the mouth is there, kind of bring it back, and we are going to have that crease of the mouth right there very much apparent. Now we are also going to have language in the ears, like so. A good way to reference a lot of expressions is to actually reference those of a human. One of the reasons I am decently good at expressions is because I also have done expressions in humans, and I am very good with them as well. Because we will understand human expression far better than we can understand animal expression. And if we can kind of mimic that in the way we draw these characters, we will have a much easier time. Okay, so let me finish that. Understanding what parts stretch, what parts don't is key. Like so. There we go. Alright. And we have these areas again, like the cheek right there. Then we have that curving up into there, or down there. Then we have the area of the nose, and then we have the brows again. And this is all the same area. And because the brows are a little bit more stretched, this area right here is going to be stretched up as well, and it's very much going to be flat. Okay, let's see. Next question. Would you say that a Huion H950p is a good first tablet? I'm not sure if it's the type of question you're answering, but it would be greatly appreciated if it would... Yeah. You're answering, but it would be greatly appreciated as I really would like to start digital art and highly value your opinion. Let me look it up real quick just to kind of see what type of tablet you're talking about. Huion H950p. Let me take a look. I would definitely recommend this tablet. It's the one that Jazza recommended in his video, and I think his opinion is very good in terms of what he knows and what he knows art-wise. So yes, I would actually, yes, that is a very good choice of tablet. Now, if you can find one cheap on eBay, or find one, an Intuos cheap on eBay, that's also a decent option as well. Whatever can save you money, especially when you're getting your first tablet, I would definitely recommend. Ah, I dropped my phone. Okay. Let's see. How do you draw eyes that express different emotions, like happy eyes versus angry eyes versus... That is a very good question, and I am gonna... Since we have this open right here, I am actually going to go a little bit more in-depth into the eye. Now, when we're doing eyes, one of the key things that I like to do is to look back at the human eye. So I'm actually going to draw the human eye. So we're going to start with the bridge of the nose, right here. And we are going to draw the eyebrow, kind of like so. And then we are going to draw the eye inside of that, kind of like so. Now, there are a couple of key components to the human eye. One is it is actually this big, and the only thing that shows is the iris, which is right here. And because it has this shape, we are also going to see that shape in the eyelid itself. So this area right here is generally going to be pretty pronounced and prominent in certain individuals, whereas the area around the eye is going to be shaded. Now, depending on how much somebody has this little flab that sticks up over here, it can actually be decreased quite a bit. So something a little bit more like that can also happen. We also have a little bit of the eyelid down here, which can also be shaded like so. But overall, that's kind of how we want to look at the human eye. Now, we simplify this when we're looking at a furry or an anthropomorphized eye because it's more of a cartoonish style, and cartoons are generally based off of reality. Believe it or not, most cartoonists actually have a pretty good grasp of the physical and the realistic. So we are going to take that, we are going to kind of draw that eye, we're going to make it a little bit bigger, we're going to add something like that, and then we're going to take kind of this little flap above the eye, kind of do it like that, and then we are also going to take the overall shape like so, and maybe shade it in a little bit like that. And there we go. We have a cartoonified eye. You add a little bit of back right there, and we're good. Now, it's important to remember all the parts of an eye. So we have the eyelid, we have the eyebrow, and we have just the bottom of the eyelid as well. And these are all things that we can mess with when trying to create expressions. So let's try to create an angry expression. So we're going to start with the eyebrow. So I'm going to start with the very much angry eyebrow. We are going to accentuate it a little bit to kind of get the point across a little bit better. We are now going to draw the eye. Now the eye is going to be half covered by the eyelid because this character is in angry mode, so we are going to have a much more closed off kind of looking character. And very much now this alone doesn't look very angry, so we're going to add a little bit to it to make it look a little bit more rugged and a little bit more angry. So one of the things that we can do is we can kind of add a crease to the bottom of the eye to kind of reference that the bottom is kind of the eye is kind of getting a little bit more small in all areas. Also add a little bit of a crease in the top, and then the most important thing is we're going to add a little bit of a crease right here to reference that it's scrunching up right in the middle between the two eyes. We are also going to make this area right in here quite a bit darker because that is where the eye is mostly getting covered. We are going to reference the eyelid, and then we're just going to kind of close it like that. And there we go, that looks pretty good. That looks like a very angry looking eye. Another way to do that is we can simplify it a little bit more, where we have the eyebrow like that, and then we have very much that, which is very much a simplified version of that, and we can have that crease right there, and we can still have the color, most of the shading right there. And we can simplify it even more to where it's just But it is important to recognize all aspects of that to kind of simplify down so that you can understand it a little bit more. And even having that understanding will help you just kind of figure out different expressions, because you can find some that are very unique to what you want to represent, and the only way to find that is by understanding muscle groups in the human face just a little bit more. We can also make him really angry by doing this. Now this guy's a really angry bean. Anyways, so it's not just in the eye that makes the character angry. It is the area around the eye that actually might be more important. Next question. It'll be cool to see you at for Karen Wade asks or says it'll be cool. I think that is the wrong that is the wrong tweet. Okay. Let's see. Somebody asks, can you give a rating of my art? Real question, am I getting into digital art but I want to My real question, I'm getting into digital art but I want to be cheap. eBay. eBay is your answer. All right. Apparently everybody is streaming. Everybody is streaming at once, so cool. All right. Failed to load tweet. Okay. I'm having some issues. What are some good inexpensive digital drawing programs? I went over this at the beginning of the video. The two that I would recommend is Paint Tool Sai, which is only $40, and then you have Krita, which is completely free. Okay, which Zach you has subscribed. Let's see. What is another good question? Using a Surface Pro 4 for my art, and I am confused on how to draw clothes for my Sona. Also, how do I develop my art style further? By the way, finalizing a drawing is missing. Part 2 of finalizing a drawing is missing. Yes, I understand that is missing. I am currently too scared to actually make that. In any case, let me answer your question of how do you draw clothes. So, clothes are a little bit difficult for me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that one off, and we are going to start on a new layer. I'm going to draw the human torso, kind of to get an idea of maybe we'll do a shirt. Let's make it a girl. Why not? Man, aren't I great at drawing boobs? Good lord. Okay. Okay, let's just erase that there because that is going to be serious copyright infringement there. Anywho, or I might get kicked off YouTube. So let's take that, and now what we are going to do is I'm going to kind of draw clothes around it. So one of the important things about clothes is draping. Draping is very important because basically that's what clothes are. They are objects that drape around your body and rest on certain areas of your body. So the places that's going to rest on here is going to be resting right up here. It's going to be resting on the top of the breasts, and it is going to maybe curve in a little bit and be resting on the shoulder as well. Now this is very important because understanding where things are going to drape is going to allow you to draw the clothes and cloth folds a little better. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to kind of outline those draping areas like so. So right there, and maybe a little bit right there. We're going to outline the area right there, and maybe a little bit right there as well. Now, that's a good start. Now we are going to kind of determine where the rest of the clothes kind of go. So for a female, it tends to taper a little bit at the bottom, so we are kind of maybe reference that right there. and like so. We're going to make this a t-shirt, so I'm going to kind of make it drape a little bit farther down there. Now comes the interesting part. So now the next thing that we're going to want to look for is we're going to want to look for creases. We are going to find creases in areas that are a little bit tight or may experience the most amount of movement. And in this case, that is going to be right at the armpits. So we are going to have creases right here. And that is about it. The next place that we're probably going to have a crease is under the breasts, and we are going to probably have a little bit of a crease kind of like that. Now what we can do is we can finish it up. We are going to have it hang a little bit looser down there because it is wrapping around, but it is not necessarily on the body right there. And we are going to have the same thing right here with this shirt, kind of like so. Same with that shirt right there. We're going to add a little bit of shading. So it's going to crease a little bit under the breasts, and we have a shirt. So being able to focus on the points of contact, where it's going to drape, where it's going to crease, and then you basically fill it in from there. Yeah. I personally don't like characters with very pronounced, just very provocative clothing. I prefer something that's a little bit more loose-fitting, just because that's just my personal preference. I don't know what that says about me. Anyway, next question. Could you please show us how to draw a hug? Because that is something that I am struggling a lot with. I do not actually know how to draw a hug. I'll give it my best shot, though. Okay, here we go. I assume that we are going to start with two characters that are relatively close. Another good way that we can do it is we can... Actually, this is a good way to learn how to do referencing properly. So we're going to look up hug. I hope that isn't going to come up with some terrible internet terrifying image. I'm just going to take the first image right here. We are going to drag this onto our screen, and we are basically going to reference it. And we're going to kind of get an idea of how a hug actually looks in real life, and then we're going to stylize it based off of what we artistically know. I'm going to turn the opacity down, and I am going to basically go over it with construction lines to kind of figure out how this drawing works. So we're going to draw the main body right here. We notice that the man and the woman have their chests very close together, but they are curving in a little bit like so, and the back there as well. And these are things that I am going to notice. So I am going to draw the female torso as well, kind of like so. I'm going to draw the areas where the arms are. We notice that the arms go right around the midsection, right there. The man is grabbing the shoulders, so that probably means that these are the two areas that you're going to want to generally grab in a hug. You're either going to want to grab below, low in the mid-range torso, or you're going to want to grab the shoulders. So now from there, we are going to reference kind of the neck. So on one side, we have the head of the boy, and on the other side, we have the head of the girl. So that means that they are offset. So one is to one side and one is to the other. So that is going to be important. We will remember this for later. Now we are going to reference the arms. So somebody's arms go below and somebody's arms go above. And what I notice immediately is that the arms that go above are the ones of the person who's holding the shoulders. And they are probably always going to be above the ones that are grabbing the waist. It's just because it's going to be easier to grab the waist when you have it underlapping the... If you're overlapping when you're holding someone, it's going to be better to hold the shoulders. And if it's underlapping, then it's going to be easier to hold the torso. Now this isn't completely true. I'm looking at a bunch of images here where that does not hold true, but we are going to use this kind of as our reference point. So I'm going to take a look at that. We are going to take that away, and we are left with something that is a little bit more understandable. So I'm going to take that like so, and now we're going to move over here, and we are going to draw it for real now that we've got a little bit of practice. I'm going to take that as a reference up here, and we are going to draw it from a different angle. So I'm going to start with the torso. So they seem pretty flat and pretty straight. So I'm going to draw double, kind of like so. We are going to reference the shoulders. And like I said before, I am actually going to do the placement of the hands first, because I can make the arms go from the hands to the shoulders, and it's going to be easier than to draw the arms and then the hands. I'm going to actually draw them a little bit differently. So I'm going to draw one hand over here. I'm going to draw the other one up on the shoulder, and I am going to draw one arm up on the shoulder over here, like so. Now we are now going to draw the heads, and if we remember, they cross and lock, like so. So this one is going to be, we're going to draw these as monster furry things, because that is what you are all here for, I assume. And this is going to make it easier, so we're going to have the snout resting on the shoulder, kind of like so. Same thing over here. We're actually going to bring that head a little bit closer in, because they're going to be a hug is a very intimate thing, so we are going to draw it a little bit closer. Gonna make him smiling. So that's a bit of a creepy smile. Didn't do that. That is terrifying. Let's see. Whatever. And now we are going to draw the arms. So I'm going to reference the arm right there. We're gonna have him grabbing up around. We're gonna have the arm go under and around. I'm gonna change the placement a little bit. Gonna have the arm go around that way too, like so. And then there we go. We have a hugging pose. So if I'm going to remember anything from this, is that the heads always cross, and you generally have the chest is the main contact point. And I think that's important to remember. All right, next question. I think I'm going to stop after 2 hours. So we're getting pretty close. I think I'm going to answer 2 more questions, and then I am going to head off. So thank you all for stopping by. I'll answer the next 2 questions, and then we will shut off we will log out for the night, and I will see you next time. Anyways, let's see. How to hug. What is your tip on how to draw Dutch Angel Dragons? Now, Dutch Angel Dragons is very interesting. I think the best thing to do is to actually look at the rules for the Dutch Angel Dragons, because they are very specific, and my friend Twilight Saint has worked very hard to make it so that they are as easy to understand as possible. I think one of the key things is make it cute as shit. That's what a Dutch Angel Dragon is meant to be, so the cuter, the better. That is very important. Granted, that is not the only way to draw them, but if you want to look at them from a realistic standpoint, the head is definitely supposed to be more horse-shaped than anything else. I would generally try to find the defining features and kind of the general body shape of a Dutch Angel Dragon and go from there. So I am going to do that right now and see if we can reference that. I would love to do a series where it's like how to draw different animals in the fandom. That would actually be a really good video series, and how many of you would actually like to see that? Just comment in chat if you would like to see something similar to that. So I'm looking at a bunch of images for Dutch Angel Dragons, and there are a couple of defining features. One is the extremely long tail, the large appendages, large paws, large hips, and just generally kind of fluffy demeanor. So that is something very important to reference. And then there is the very distinct, people are saying, yes, okay, that sounds like something I will have to do. What the heck is that? Oh, that is not something I ever wanted to see. Cool, thanks, Internet. Alright, so the two things that we kind of get is fluffy, thick thighs, and thick paws. That's generally what I'm getting from Orisum donated $30.
Now it's even again.
Thank you, Orisum, for the $3.62, saying, now it is even again. Thank you, I appreciate it. The feng shui of the donation ticker is very much back on point. In any case, let's take a look at a Dutch Angel Dragon. Now, I have drawn a Dutch Angel Dragon before, and I did draw the anatomy of a Dutch Angel Dragon for Telephone back when I worked for Artwork Team. And I think the main thing that I really want to point out about a Dutch Angel Dragon is that they are very much pear-shaped. So they kind of have a more thin upper torso and a little bit thicker bottom torso. So we are going to kind of reference that. They have a relatively large head in comparison to the rest of the body, or at least that's how people like to draw it. So we are going to, and then we are going to draw the appendages kind of like so. And I'm just using kind of a tentacle style that I find very useful for kind of just making something that flows a little bit more. We are going to kind of just create something that flows a little bit more. So now we're going to get into more of the meat of this. So one of the key things for a Dutch Angel Dragon is a relatively long tail. So we are going to kind of reference that a little bit right there. It curves out a little bit and then it comes to a tuft. It's very key to the Dutch Angel Dragon design. Now, one of the things that I'm noticing is somebody just subscribed. Thank you for subscribing. So the next thing that I notice is that the paws, both on the hands and on the feet, are very much kind of large and very bubbly. And that's a general consensus for a Dutch Angel Dragon, is they are a very bubbly looking character. So I'm kind of draw them a little bit oversized in comparison to a lot of other creatures in the fandom. And then they kind of curve in or morph in a little bit more to the rest of the body than maybe in other characters or other creatures in the fandom. It's very much a little bit less of a pronounced transition into the upper and to the lower arms. So I'm going to kind of reference that a little bit more, like so. Again, keeping it very fluffy and very fluffy chest. And then for them, then we're gonna need them really thick thighs, because thick thighs save lives, and the Dutch Angel Dragon is very much aware of that. Thank you, Eno, for making that happen. And the torso can be relatively thin. It's generally still going to be kind of fluffy, so it's going to be relatively the same width as the thighs, I would say, is a good reference point. And then we're going to have the kneecaps like that, and then very much it's going to remain fluffy throughout the rest of the drawing. Like so. We now have our reference there. Important thing is to now add the wings, because what is a Dutch Angel, what is a dragon without the thing that makes them fly? There we go. So keeping those very prominently thick lower appendages is very important. We are going to work on the face now. The ears are actually relatively big, but they are not necessarily... They are more lined on the top of the head. But for certain designs, let's make them a little bit large. So let's do that. We are going to make a very rounded face, like so, because Dutch Angel Dragons are very much bubbly, and we're going to do the same thing for the face as well. Now, it is important to note that the bridge of the nose is very much slants up like that. It is not as prominent of a curve up as on other creatures, so we are going to kind of allude to that as well. So the bridge of the nose is very apparent. It's still a very bubbly design. We are going to add maybe a little tuft here and there, but overall the face is actually relatively not that fluffy. A little bit of hair. We are going to add the eyes, kind of like that. Going to add that, and then of course we're going to add the extremely inverted and creepy looking eyes like so. That. It's very important to keep the snout very rounded as well, because that is a very defining feature of a Dutch Angel dragon. And I think that looks good. And then we just draw the wings. Now I like to reference the wings as kind of a line, so we have a linkage there, and linkage there. So we will drag that up over the top there, and we are going to do the same thing back there. And we are just going to erase, and there we go. We have our Dutch Angel dragon right there. We will name him Tim.
Reginald, I'll say, do not steal.
Next question. Any advice for artists who are trying to get into painting digitally? I answered that at the beginning of the... I think I answered that at the beginning of the stream, and I believe I can reference back to it right here, which is... Yeah. You're going to mess up. Start cheap. I guess skip this middle step. Shut up. Just sit this middle up and watch tutorials. That would be the most useful thing. So we're going to move on to the next question because that was relatively short. Okay, cool. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Let's see. Next question. How do you draw good glossy eyes? A lot of eye questions today. How do you draw shoes? How do I draw cats? I think we're going to stop with the how do you draw glossy eyes. So we will actually do that now. Okay, so I'm going to draw a face right here. Oh, hey. Hi, you donated $3.
Donation for your new Dutch Angel dragon fursuit, Timophone.
Timophone. Oh boy. You know, I would be so mad if I made a suit called Timophone. Okay. I'm just gonna kind of just reference the rest of the body because we're not really interested in that. We're just kind of interested in the eyes. So we are going to take a look at the eyes, and I'm going to show you how to draw shiny eyes. Eyes are very interesting because the shape of them is... We're going to look at the eyeball, actually. Colin...
I missed most of tonight's stream, but I love what you do. I hope this helps your goal. Stay awesome.
Thank you, Colin71, for who donated $25, saying, I missed most of tonight's stream, but I love what you've done. Keep staying awesome. At least I'm paraphrasing right now. Maybe I'm acting pretentious. I don't know. But thank you for the $25. Now, eyes are interesting because they're, on a surface level, yes, they are pretty simple. We're actually going to cut the eye in half right here, and we're going to take a little bit more of an in-depth look. Once I draw a perfect circle, which will probably never happen, but who knows. Oh, there we go. It's close enough. On a surface level, this is kind of what we think an eye looks like. So you got the iris right there, and it's just like, it's a creepy eyeball. It's at like a little thing in the back, so that's the muscle. Now there we go. An obese sperm. What goes on in my head, I do not know. I should not be allowed to speak to small children. Okay. The iris has its own geometry, and it's a very interesting one. The iris itself is technically a muscle that expands your eyes, kind of like how an aperture works on a camera. But basically, what happens is your eye kind of goes like that, and when it's low light, your iris goes like that. So the muscles pull in to kind of open up your eye, and when it's really light out, it goes like that, so that less light comes in, and therefore it doesn't burn your rods and cones. Now, the iris is actually inset, so the iris operates around in this area. So it's actually a inner curve, like so. And then you have a lens on the outside, which operates within this area. So you actually have a bit of a bump in your eye right there. When you can close your eye and like feel around, and you can find, if you look from one side to the other, you can actually feel that bump. I would not recommend touching your eye with your bare finger because that'll sting, and I'm not sure what damage that'll do, and I don't want to be held liable for you doing something stupid. In any case, because of this, we are going to actually treat this section right here a little bit differently. So I'm going to drag it up here, and we are going to kind of look at it a little bit differently. So here we have the iris. Now, the iris is actually going to be inset a little bit like so, because it is an internal geometry kind of like that, kind of like how you get a speaker in a subwoofer. And the iris is literally a hole into your eye where the rods and cones on the other side, which are along this side, basically light comes in, so like that. This whole area in here is just a dark void. So because of that, the iris is actually going to just be black. You are never going to see an iris not be black, ever. Except at night when you shine a light on it and the eyes reflect, which is mostly with nocturnal animals. Next thing we're going to want to note is that if light is coming in from right here, where on most of the eye, which is normally a sphere, it'll bounce off there and the shadow will be on this side. On an iris, the shadow is actually on the inside, like so. Now, let us take this knowledge. We also are going to have, because of that, we're also going to have highlights right here. Because of the geometry right here, which is going to bounce light, which is still rounded, but because it's see-through, we're only going to see the light reflection from where it bounced. So in this case, it'll be right around here. So we'll have a three-prong light, and that's where it's going to bounce. But we can be a little bit lenient with it and put it right there so it doesn't block the view of the iris. Now, we're going to take this knowledge and we're going to apply it to our drawing. Hooray! I am going to take this like that. We're going to move on to a new layer and we are going to move it down. So I am going to actually make the eye a color. We are going to use a slightly yellowish color for the eye itself, because eyes aren't actually a perfect white. Believe it or not, it'll also help with shading. Like so. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is, chat, what color do we want the eyes to be? Let me ask that question to you guys. Alright, somebody answered green, so that's what we're going to make it. We're going to make the eyes green, because they were the first one to answer. So we're going to take kind of that range. We're not going to use a very bright colors, but we are going to use a color like that. And we are going to make the eyes green. Now we're going to take what I said about the iris, and we are going to make it a jet black, and put it right there. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to reference this color. We're actually going to take a slightly yellowish color, and we're going to shade in, assuming light is coming from right here. We are going to take that, and we are going to shade in the underside of the eyes, because that is where we are going to have a cast shadow. We are also going to have a cast shadow from the top as well, so we're going to kind of go like that. We're going to have some on the top cast by the eyelids, so we will reference that here too. There we go. Like so. Now we're going to take this, and we're going to remember what we learned about the iris and how it actually has a shadow in a very different kind of sense. So we are going to take that here. Going to drag the color down. And we already have some pretty decent looking eyes, but I am not done. So we can actually just add like a little bit of a gradient there, just to kind of make it a little bit better. I don't know. Looks alright. Not the best, not the worst. We can add those sections like that to kind of reference. And having a little bit of a gradient is going to be really useful as well, just because sometimes shadows aren't perfect and they can have a bit of a gradient to them. So we're going to do that a little bit there. And now we are going to work on the highlights for the eyes. Since it's coming from this direction, we are actually going to have we're going to have it bounce into our eyes, maybe right around there. At least that's where we're going to reference it. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I am going to maybe shade a little bit right here, maybe have a bit of a gradient, and we are just going to kind of be a little bit frugal with this, because when we go back to it later, which is right now, we're going to actually kind of make shapes in it. So maybe we'll have a little bit, and remember that the shape on both eyes is going to be relatively the same. So we are going to kind of make those shapes like so. Maybe this is a window. Make it a little bit rounded. Maybe like that. And there we have some relatively good looking eyes, where we have the brain fart, where we have the iris is completely black. We are going to have shading around the eye, and we are going to have shading. Let's turn that down a little bit. We're going to have shading from the top of the iris, and then we're going to have light on the bottom. And that is how you would probably want to go about drawing eyes. I hope this was helpful for some of you guys. I hope I answered some of your guys' more burning questions, and I hope my responses were at least adequate enough to keep you guys busy for until I do another one of these, which I know it isn't. And if you guys have any questions, I will do my best to answer them next time I do this. I hope you guys had a good time. I will probably be streaming in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to be streaming next Friday because I am going to be moving back home for the summer break because college is almost done, finals are here, and I am more stressed than a... It's a good term. Shoot, I can't come up with a good analogy. I'm just extremely stressed and have a lot of anxiety because of finals. I hope that you were able to learn something from this. I will see you guys all next stream. And until that time, I hope you're satisfied, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.